Welcome to American Exceptionalism on New Right Network with your hosts, Kevin Fobbs and Susan Swift. Get ready to transform your life and have the doors of make-believe media blown away with an hour packed with American Exceptionalism founded by faith and fire as we counter liberal political persecution and preach the political gospel while we explore the coming American resurrection. Your voices will be heard. Silence is betrayal. Good afternoon. Welcome to American Exceptionalism. We have a fascinating show today. Susan Swift and myself, Kevin Fobbs. We're going to talk about how far should microchipping go, and should employees and your kids be microchipped for their safety? And I think equally important, how legal is it?
You think?
How
legal?
Microchipping is not new. We know that already because pets have been microchipped for years, but now it's emerging in terms of the ability to microchip people for some very unique and positive identification opportunities, or perhaps even challenges.
Because I am not a dog.
Yeah, you're not a dog, neither am I. But you know what? There are people who are saying that your kids and even yourself, you should be protected. And this is a way to keep you safe and secure, perhaps. We don't know. We'll talk about it.
Right.
And right now there's this discussion. I mean, this discussion is occurring all over the globe, actually. And there are civil libertarians who are on one side, and then there are others who are saying, including politicians, who are saying, you know what, let's take a look at this and see just how far we can go up to the line without going over. In fact, in the United States, there are several states that have moved to enact legislation regarding the microchipping of people and regarding employees, that's mentioned earlier, medical patients. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And so the question really is, among several, will the law keep pace with human tracking technology, and how do we protect our individual privacy? Today, we're going to talk about all that today on American Exceptionalism. So, Susan, what would you do if
Okay.
if you're a city
softball in there, I'm revving
yeah.
up. For the fence. Okay.
If your city or state enacted required that mandated that your child wear a wristband or even a microchip embedded in order to keep your child safe, Susan, what would you consider?
Safe. It's a four-letter word like love or wife. Safe. I'm sorry, but it's the passing of the law by the city to mandate that the state has any kind of power to mandate that is the concern.
Okay.
The idea that, I mean, look, there are already wristbands for kids, or you can put a little, like a little tile app in their backpack or whatever so that you can track them. That makes sense, if parents want to, kind of a thing. But the notion that the state, in its benevolence, in its wish to care for all of its children, right?
Don't forget wisdom.
Yes, wisdom. That's right. The state in its wisdom. Because it's got so much of that lately. Mm-hmm. That would, what would I do?
Yeah. What would Susan do?
Well, there's the Second Amendment after all, isn't there? No, anyway. I don't think I would comply.
Yeah.
I would challenge the law. I mean, I would say I would refuse. I say, I'm not going to chip my kids. Unless, if it's something that I believe as the parent is necessary for their health and well-being, and finding them something like that, I can elect to do that. But at a certain age, 16, 17, 18, certainly by the time they're of legal age, my right as a parent to care for them ceases. So where does the state get its right to care for its little children, its citizens? Where it comes from parents, it comes from people. And it makes me very nervous that in these dangerous times of mob rule, because that's what democracy is. We are a republic, and Democrats are always harping about democracy. A democracy is a mob, and once you have the force behind a democratic idea, like chipping, what's going to stop them? Nothing, except people standing up and saying, no, I'm not going to do it.
So I guess it's a line somewhere, Susan, to me, Like, for example, in Japan, according to this article in the American Bar Organization, in Japan, school children are using wristbands, and you talked about that a second
Yeah.
ago, that can transmit a signal. You know, in this case, they are doing this over. You can actually pick that signal up over 2 football fields. So the question for a child who, for example, walks off the path, as it says in the article, or does not make it to school in time, the school can track that child as well as the parent to find out just like exactly where is that child? Is that child like playing hooky? Is that child like at the store getting candy? Where is that
Right.
child at?
Right. And the question is, obviously, would that be permissible and legal? Well, you know,
Right.
permissible, those are vague terms, and what is legal is not necessarily the same thing as moral or right. And that's the gray zone. What if you had a child who is habitually truant, who doesn't go to school, or who has committed, you know, small petty vandalisms around the school, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Then at a certain point, perhaps the child and the parents have given up that right to, you know, since you're not complying, since you're breaking, quote unquote, the school law. All right, when you come in the morning, we got to have your wristband on. You got to have it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Otherwise you can't come to our school, kind of a thing.
Right.
Although this starts to, I mean, we start getting up against the notion that the state can mandate this in schools. Right now in California, you are mandated that you must vaccinate all your children, you know, against certain diseases. And I'm a big proponent of yes, vaccinate, because to rely on a herd, a group immunity, it eventually erodes that immunity. You end up with people who do get sick. I think it's actually horrendous to weaken children by not allowing modern medicine to vaccinate. So I don't have a problem if you don't want to vaccinate, then you need to you need to basically homeschool your kid and keep them out of the public system, because, you know, you're a risk. But then again, that's the force of the state compelling, and I don't like that idea that the state can compel a parent to vaccinate a child or to chip a child, you know, for safety, for health, because when we get away from individual rights and individual health, when we start talking about group, that's a concern. The other side, though, is, look, we have a public school, and we want to make sure that the kids get there and that they are safe. They don't leave the campus. So chipping them subcutaneously, that's under the skin for people who live in League City, Texas, where I grew up. Love you, Texas. But if you put a chip subcutaneously, it's harder to take out and take off. That's a minor surgical procedure, and to remove it, you know, it's kind of like a Jason Bourne thing. You know, you have to slice it out of your hip or wherever they put it. That's more intrusive, obviously, than just a simple wristband that you got to put on when you go through the school doors, right?
Right.
It's troubling, and where are the individual rights versus the school's responsibility to keep people safe and to protect the child, to protect the public property, all of those things. So I kind of don't like the idea of walking off a path. I mean, here's the other thing. I mean, what happened to good old-fashioned supervision, where teachers are actually watching kids and we're having human interaction, and we can use the power of the human mind, the brain, to see, oh, this kid is actually walking off a path because she's going to pick a dandelion flower and she's going to give it to her 3rd grade teacher, right? I mean, why do we have to have some sort of a big brother chip wristband thing that goes, you know, you know, Susie just stepped off the path and is now in the field, you know, and you know, the entire, you know, helicopters fly and we got to go find Susie who's in the football field picking out a daisy. Look, this is just I think it's an excuse to lower the duty of teachers and parents and adults to supervise and raise children. So, we're supposed to be there. We're supposed to be watching them and protecting them. I don't want to trust it to a computer or a chip.
Or a drone. I was just thinking as you were talking.
Yeah,
perhaps
that's right. Little helicopter monitor. Talk about the teacher monitor from you know, like something like out of, you know, Charlie Brown, and you know, the monitor teacher. Wah, 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 wah. I mean, that's what That's what it feels like to me, is that now we'll have drones over, monitoring the public school area. We already have a system in our school where, the mothership is sending down to all their little tablets, personalized lessons for your child. It's called iReady and iMath, and it teaches your child based on their ability to progress.
Right.
I've actually been on that system with my son, and you know what? If he guesses the wrong answer, if he's kind of being a little bit sloppy and wants to go fast and kind of, oh, this is stupid, guess what? It recalibrates and it dumbs down the lesson to the point where he gets he's like, this is stupid, and then he shuts down doing it. You have to have a real live person. You cannot replace a caring, loving, vigilant parent, teacher, guardian, adult. You can't do it. These are all attempts to aid and assist parents and educators. That, I think, it opens too wide of a door for them to shirk their responsibilities for hands-on, in-person, face-to-face, loving socializing of children. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So,
think about this. Just take it one more step towards that line. Let's just say that the bracelet's there and it's tied to the drone. I'm just thinking about that whole school drone deal, where, for example, the kid's not there, and so we know where the kid is not. We don't know where the kid is. So the question, I guess, then is, should we equip the school with drones? Should the drones, once that you punch in,
yep,
this kid's not there, send that drone so you can find out where the kid is.
This sounds like a scary sci-fi movie, and the drone is searching for the child. Just kind of creepy, spooky, right?
Well,
it's funny. Actually, task an individual drone. You could have 100 drones, right? And they're all just sitting up on shelves in the principal's office, and the principal goes, "Where is that Johnny?" Beef, and she sends a little drone, goes off the shelf and goes out the window and finds Johnny.
You know what? Here's the thing. I just wrote it down. They will call it truant drones. This is the truant drones. Yep. Yeah, truancy drones. So this is what's going to happen. It's like you can here two things. You save money because you don't have they are like the Terminator.
Right. This is IA. This is robots at McDonald's. The same thing. We don't need people.
Yeah, you save the school system money and
save the police money. You don't have to call them because Johnny's truant or something. You don't have to call the truancy officer or the police or anybody to go find him, because you can just send a drone to go find him.
Yeah, the truancy drone. Let's keep it right. Keep it real.
I'm not liking truancy drone, Mr. Guy. And what's your name, Mr. Truancy Drone? I am drone number 456A23. It sounds like something out of the Star Wars, like those, in the white helmet, the stormtroopers. That's the whole. That's what drones are. Computers.
Well, this is what Generation Z, because millennial generation, they're that transitional generation. But Generation Z, I will guarantee you that we will see those truancy drones in a state near you, actually your state.
Yeah, and they eat Tide Pods too, so not the brightest ideas. Sometimes some of them. Gotta review this.
Now here's something.
The same people who want IA and truancy drones are the same ones who are crunching down Tide Pods. Really, we want to listen to them because they're experts in privacy and all these things. How many kids have they raised yet? These little Gen Zs. I don't know. They're still kids themselves.
Well, I'm going to tell you. Let's just say in 2 years, 2020, right after the presidential elections, you will see this may even be an issue in the presidential elections, certainly in the senatorial elections, whether or not we can protect our children by having these truancy drones become a reality. I'm just saying.
And it's all going to come down to, look, if it is focused on the rights of parents, the rights of the parents as stewards, parents are not slave owners. Children are not slaves. They are citizens. They have full rights themselves. They're only limited in time. They have a mutable condition. They are immature, right? But they have, and that's why we are stewards of them. We are to care for them, not own them. The state, with the nanny state idea, they approach things in a different way. They do believe that citizens are the state's slaves. I mean, that's what liberalism wants. One big global world order. They can have global drones. We can all have a little, instead of an angel assigned to us, a guardian angel, we'll just have a guardian drone. A guardian drone by big government. It'll be like a little government angel, a saint, if you will, to follow you around and make sure that you, as a good citizen of the state, and your little, your angel drone is coming along with your little, and just making sure that you are staying on the sidewalk of life.
You know what? And we, you guys, you heard it here first. The guardian drone.
Angel drones, yep.
And the angel drone.
The angel drones are the guardian. Yeah, it's a guardian angel. That it'll be a guardian angel drone, and they can, what's to stop? I mean, if you can do this for children, obviously, and there are huge advantages to that, because it does free up, and you can, observe people, and if it is at a very small location like a school where they're supposed to be safe, what if they get lost? What if they fall down a little, I don't know, a ramp or something, and there's a little area in the school where you're supposed to have, trash and recyclable stuff stored. What if they're stuck in there? It's a 5-year-old and she gotten into this area she's not supposed to be. We could find her, right?
Right.
There are good safety reasons. They make sense. And I know I'm being sometimes dramatic and silly. The problem is, it is the camel's nose under the tent, and how do you balance it? And I don't trust the state. I do trust parents. Parents know what's best for their child. If a parent wants to opt in to something like this for, a limited time, so that, the bands are only worn at school, or, according to the parents have the ultimate authority. But in this age of Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, do we really trust the state, any state, or any other agency other than ourselves, even the so helpful, Alexa and Google, not to continue monitoring when we say, okay, take off the band down, we're going to leave it on the dresser, or whatever, or switch off the little subcutaneous chip. I don't know if I would trust them to, turn it off.
Well, here's the question.
When you're 16, we take it off because you drive now. I mean, at what point the parent has the ability to access that for safety, but by opening that's a threshold that would allow surreptitious monitoring of the next generation of voters. Don't you think the Democrats would love to, and Google, Facebook, all of them, they would, not only do they track everything that we do on our cell phones, and everything we buy, everything we even look at, every ad, it's all, stored in, some sort of, huge place, probably in, Nevada, a giant, I'm not even kidding. I drive out there sometimes. If you're driving in the desert, you'll see these mega, like, what is this? What, so they're storing all this metadata on us anyway. This is just one more metadata.
Yeah. Well,
when the child goes to the bathroom,
Yeah. Good point. The one point that, and you mentioned this, and I was thinking, okay, the Guardian Angel Project, and how do you get the parents buy into this, and what they're going to do. I can see it now. The PTA. The PTA is the instrument that the school system will use to show that we are buying in as parents to this concept, and the vote. It's just, again, it's like I'm seeing it right in front of me.
It's all voluntary. You can just
voluntary.
That's how it starts. Is voluntary. We have this new service for you. We'll start it, in kindergarten up through like about 3rd grade. Just keep your children safe. Yeah. And it's free service. It's free. And you can have it either subcutaneous, or we can just put it on their wrist, and it's waterproof. It's bomb proof. It's fireproof. It's everything proof. It's going to outlast the kid. There's no way to. You can't just put your arm in, in the sink and short it out. That technology is way beyond this. So this will all be free, and it'll be sold as a safety. As we're talking about, to protect children at home, at school, to prevent them from being kidnapped.
And also, Susan,
are micro
when they're on class trips as well.
Right. Field trips.
Yeah.
We don't want them kidnapped, right? We don't want them targeted by, lone wolf jihadists who are going to scoop them up, right? You know, but you always look, that's exactly what politicians, especially the liberal kind, they always sell you safety to get you to swap freedom. And if you will give up your freedom for safety, then it's voluntary, right? It's all voluntary, and this is a good service. And and I can actually see where, I had a bunch of kids. I had 5 under the age of 7. It would be nice to chip them, but the thing is, no, I just had gates and fences, and and I was ever vigilant. I didn't get a lot of sleep, and that's hard. And it's a very tempting thing to just offer some. Well, we'll know where you are. It's kind of like these little baby monitors that are already existing, and you can watch your child sleep. Know which room they're in, and you can check on your phone from work. You can watch the babysitter or the nanny who's abusing your child or whatever. I mean, there's so much technology already. You're selling safety, you're selling security and convenience. You don't have to actually watch your kid,
your child. And you're swapping out freedom.
You don't have to stay home with your child. You can work, and you can go and realize who you were meant to be, and you don't have to worry because your child is safe. Very safe.
And secured by the baby, the angel drone. Yeah.
The angel. Yep. The guardian angel drone. And you can assign it. You can personally, that'll be the next thing. If it gets going into school, why can't a parent just buy, for $1,998 shipped direct from Google, the guardian angel drone that goes with the child everywhere, just follows it around, it's tied to the chip on the kid. And that way you'll know without the child even knowing. They were 16-year-old, you're 17-year-old, right? On a date, without her even knowing, you can follow her. You can track her and make sure she's safe.
Yeah. Now here's how this is going to work, I believe. And I'm not trying to develop a blue print for this, but the reality is just this is how it's done. It's like, okay, if most people in America who are on welfare have some kind of government
subsidy benefit,
whatever, into their life, and because they get something out of it, they get the welfare benefit and so on, food stamps, and so the question is, why not try it out on that population?
Right.
Because you know what?
The Germans tried out, genetic alteration on Jews.
And
the poor, those people. Let's just try it out on them. And the other side of it is, and this makes sense. It's like, look, if you're going to be getting a welfare check from me, right? Because I'm the tax. It's collectively, okay. So you're getting money from me. I want to make sure your kids are vaccinated. I want to make sure that your kids are in school. I want to make sure that I know where you are, that you are actually going to your job. If you're saying I can't get a job, right? Or I want to make sure of that, right? I want to verify. I would rather just how about we not have this welfare in the first place? How about you just go and get your own job? But for folks who don't want to work or can't work or something, what are we going to do as an exchange program? And that's how you get it going. Just like anything else. You say, oh, you want to get your welfare check this week? Oh, well, you didn't get your kid vaccinated. You didn't get him. Oh, and your kid was absent 2 times in school or was late. You know how I know? Guardian angel drone was there. And the school told me that your child did not attend, grade 4. And so, next week, if you want to get your check, you better make sure that Bobby shows up and stays at school the whole time.
See, you just actually, not again, think about this.
It's government intimidation.
And whether or not you have this drone verify system, it's like e-verify. In this case, it's drone verify, angel verify, angel drone verify. Let's get it right.
Yep.
Okay. Or, and here's the thing.
It's AI verify. It's AI.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. Just like e-verify, we can tell if you're a legal citizen. Well, now we can tell exactly where you are at all times.
So again, just keeping this in mind, we're still kind of like headed towards the line, because we haven't really crossed that line, I don't think, yet.
You mean the cliff? Yeah, that.
Yeah. Okay. You caught a cliff, I caught a line.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Again, and going back to Japan, and in terms of being able to have the monitoring system in Japan, they also make certain that the schools or the cars that are in the neighborhood, they're also outfitted with that same technology. And so that if, for example, if a vehicle nears a child, a prompt goes off, a voice prompt, kind of like in Terminator, or actually in RoboCop. to alert the driver to, you know what, hold back, because there's a child is in that neighborhood near you. And it also sends a notice to the school and to the parent. So is that, again, up to the line? And what kind of problems does that create legally for the car owner in that neighborhood?
It's very interesting. I mean, you could have parents who have divorced and have joint custody or are battling custody.
Yeah.
And, mom's coming to pick up the kid and it's not her weekend. They're having to fight. This can explode beyond the use that we're seeing. What this the way that we're reading it is, well, we want to alert cars to slow down. There's traffic and children might be walking by. We want you to drive more safely. Makes complete sense. Total sense, right? But then it also tracks what cars are by the school. We also want to make sure any car by the school is not some sort of creepy stalker who's going to, kidnap a kid. We want, if a car drives by and scoops up a driver scoops up a kid, we want to know, right?
Yeah.
These are replacing what would be called police, who would be on the corners and people who escort children across the crossing guards. We're replacing people with all of these, and we're thinking that it will be an improvement in safety. I don't think it will. I think it'll create more problems than it's worth.
Well, here's a question then. If you are in Chicago or in Detroit, you haven't seen a cop in ages, near a school or anywhere else. And so the question,
whose fault is that?
Well, you know what? We can always deal with the fault part, Susan, but the reality is, let's talk about the reality. Haven't seen a cop. Where's the cop? Nowhere to be found. So the question then is this something either we're looking at Japan, where you have the cars in the neighborhood, or is it just possible that all cars should be chipped, like in that manner? I mean, I'm just asking that, throwing that out.
But it's just
slippery. It's a slippery slope. I know.
I don't want the state tracking where I drive,
whether
it's in school or not. It's not their business. But they're going to say it's their business to keep America safe.
Yeah.
We must keep our children safe. It's always the mantra to allow the government to pick up where parents leave off, to exchange freedom for safety, freedom for security. We're always doing that. And then we need to have an entire governmental system in place. Who's going to fund all of these, guardian angel drones? Who's going to fund these chips? Well, what if a child can't afford the chip, right?
Free.
Oh, well, we'll have the state pay for it. Oh, okay. Who's going to do that? Who are the doctors who are going to put in the chips? Oh, well, that's okay. We'll pay for it. We just need to raise your taxes, right? That's all this is. That's all this. I mean, it's another government program sold with the idea of safety. And
exactly.
I just am uncomfortable with it.
Well, I'm just throwing it out, coming up to that line, or as you call it, Susan, to the cliff.
Look, we have a right. We theoretically have this right to privacy, right? Which was it's in the penumbra of the Constitution. It was invented by the Supreme Court because it doesn't. The right to privacy does not exist in the Constitution. It's something that has been found, and it has been stretched beyond all reason to include such things as murder of unborn children in the womb. Mm-hmm. So I suppose, the logic is, if you can murder a child in the womb, why can't you chip them and track them until they're 65? I don't see the difference. Mm-hmm. Right? For the benefit of, because we are allowing a certain class of citizen, mm-hmm. women, right? Women of childbearing years, exclusive control over another generation of people, which are the ones who are yet to be born. And we give these women rights that are much higher than the rights that men have, who are also equal creators in the life of this child. The men have no rights to determine whether this child is born or anything about it, but the woman does. She has absolute total control and can kill that child pretty much up until, the baby's born and the umbilical cord is cut, right?
Right.
If we're using the right to privacy to bastardize that notion of privacy to that extent, then chipping is that's just nothing. That why should we even be concerned, right? It mm-hmm. stretches privacy, there is no such thing as privacy if you can murder a child in the womb. The womb should be the most private place in the world, and we've turned that into oh, it's my womb and therefore I can kill anything in it, and that misses the point that there's another human being. So if you can discount a human child, if you can just completely discount them, then of course you can chip them, and you can keep the chip in past the age of, look, I mean, abortion, there are literally Democrats and liberals who have advocated that you should be able to kill a child up until they're 2 years old.
Yes, yeah.
They're radical like that, you know? So what's the difference? The right to privacy in a chip, we have to really rethink what the right to privacy means. Really, truly. We have to address it from an abortion standpoint first. You should not be able to, if we're going to start fighting over whether it's legal or not to insert a chip in a child, isn't that a foregone conclusion, since you can already kill the child in the womb on some woman's say-so? Just because she can't get her nails done, and I really want to have my SUV in my life, I really want to go to college, and all these things that don't have to do with literal life and death. If we can murder a child in the womb for something as trivial as, well, I just, my mental state, I'm just so stressed and I would rather kill the child than give it up for adoption, right? Then this chipping argument will eventually fall, because the right to privacy is defined by a political group of people, i.e. feminists right now. And so if the feminists want their children chipped, fine, they're going to be chipped. We'll justify it by safety. We'll justify it by convenience. We'll justify it for any other way. And we are not thinking about the right of the child or the adult to be chipped, because pretty much then once somebody else can make that decision for a child past a certain age, right? Whatever the age is, we are now pushing the boundary of human independence. And once the chip's in, who's going to take it out, right? And now you're 18, and well, we've already registered you to vote. So I don't know why should we take it out right now, right? Yeah. I don't know. I'm off. I'm kind of spinning.
But here's a question. Okay, let's take it again. Dealing with the school and the parent and the protectors of the child, i.e. the school system itself. What about sex offenders who are in that neighborhood? Because sex offenders who are on the list are required to be a certain amount of distance from that school. So the question then is, should sex offenders in general be chipped in terms of being able to protect the child and the neighborhood, or is that, again, right up to the line?
Violation of their constitutional right.
And what kind of constitutional right do they have if they've already been adjudicated in that manner, in terms of being able to protect the safety and security of those children?
And in that case, this would be a lot more simple, because we already have laws in place, and that's why they can put the little boots on their ankles or whatever, that you are under house arrest, or you're not allowed to go near a school. That's the same technology that can be put in, because you have, by committing a crime, by being obviously found guilty, your rights are now forfeit. You have now forfeited the right to privacy and freedom and all of those things, just like you lose, well, unless you're in a Democrat state where you still can vote. Jeez. You lose a lot of votes when you're a felon, right? I mean, I'm sorry, a lot of rights when you're a felon, like right to vote, a lot of other things. So it makes more sense that you can restrict the movements of a known sex offender who has been proven, violent, et cetera, et cetera. Those things are already in place, and chipping would just be one more step beyond the ankle bracelet or the wrist bracelet. But it's still an invasion of their body. It's still an invasion. I mean, I think the courts have wrestled with it. Can you force someone to give a blood sample for DNA? I mean, these are the issues of what, that we're up against with protecting the public from but it's a very different thing when you're talking about someone who has committed a crime. Because then you're giving up your rights. Although who defines a crime?
Well, society does.
What a crime. Well, yeah. And what if it's a crime to own a gun? Right?
Yeah.
What if the Democrats get control of everything, right? And they repeal the, Second Amendment? Or what if they make it so terrible and horrible in a state, in a state government? They don't even have to go federal, but they just say, well, I'm sorry, you cannot own a gun if you've like we just had this shooting with this Marine who went PTSD whack, right? Just total, postal,
Yeah.
went totally postal, went into a bar and just shot a bunch of people. I mean, just
Mhm.
he's a Marine. He had served in in combat over in Afghanistan. I mean, decorated kind of type hero person, right? And
Yeah.
he just lost it, right? What's to stop anybody from saying, these guys who serve over and these gals who serve over in, Iraq and Afghanistan, Syria, when they come back, we should pass a law that they should not be able to own guns, right? Because we want to keep the people safe.
Exactly. Right. Right.
Okay. And then when they do own that, you can take away their right. That's the government. That's the state infringing on that individual's right, and justifiably, by saying, well, we don't want them to have guns, right? But it's not an individual right anymore. Now it's becoming more of a collective decision that all these people see before.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. The only problem with our system is we have to wait for you to hurt and harm somebody before we can put these things on you, because we do judge people individually. We cannot just take an entire group of people and say, okay, anybody who served in the Army should not be able to own a gun. Who's going to write these laws? Then the minute that law is in place and then somebody's owning a gun, then it's like, oh, well, you've now broken this new law. I can now chip you. And you're not even allowed to go near the schools or anything because you broke this law that we think that we can argue is unconstitutional. If you redefine it, it just depends on who is writing the law.
Which goes back to why we need to have the Supreme Court protected by conservatives.
Well, yeah, and that's why we have to oppose one world global order and the entire idea that we all need to have basically a centralized hub controlling everyone, and that all nations should learn to get along. All of that it has to be. We must have local control. That's why these elections matter. That's why politics matter, because what is to stop even me? I can be very well-meaning and I can say, well, of course all these children should be protected. I don't want them to be abused or anything. And I because I'm a benevolent dictator, right? I am going to decide that all 2-year-olds and under should be chipped for their own safety. Well, who put me in charge? Right? I mean, that's why it's got to come down to individual families. A mother who knows her child is going to be the best judge of that and say, you know what, he doesn't need it, he's fine. Or, yeah, this one of my kids, he tends to kind of wander off. But for the state to do any of this,
I think we want to say mother or father, because my dad was just as involved as my mother. So
of course, and fathers, and they don't have any rights, of course, because of abortion. Fathers don't have any rights to say, even to protect the life of their child right now, which is so topsy-turvy. It's wrong. But for a parent, it's when you involve the state, you have another layer of problems. And yes, involving the state when you have convicted criminals, that's different, unless you say, well, what is a crime? Define a crime, right?
Well, I think that once you've gone through the system, you've been adjudicated,
yes,
and found guilty, I think that's where the line is for at least.
Agree. And then you have forfeited those rights. You shouldn't be able to own a gun. And I should be able to track you for during the time of your, whatever. Maybe it's for life, maybe it's 2 years, whatever it is. If you're rehabilitating, all of those things matter. I'm just flagging the eventuality that if the Democrats ever wanted to, they could just make us all criminals. They just by act of Congress, they just make us all criminals, and then they come get our guns, because that's how you disarm a population. It's just how you do it.
Well, I think in closing, and we're going to deal with what happens in terms of employees and employers and just in general society in another show. But I think one of the things I think for parents to be aware of, Susan, is that the reality is that the technology is now. The future is now. You see it occurring in Japan in terms of what they're trying out in other countries. But in America, here's the reality. In 5 years, just You know, you can just take a look at this show 5 years from now, and you'll think that we were a psychic or something.
Or psychotic, one or the other.
Yeah, or psychotic. Who knows? But the reality is that when you start with children and those who are sort of like, or those who are poor, and they will be the test tube.
And the infirm.
And the infirm, in terms of, and those who are in hospitals, they will become the test tube individuals for this kind of technology. And you're going to see that. And this whole idea of drones, I think that's less than 5 years away, to be honest. I think that's going to be something that'll be debated and talked about after 20 elections, or even during the 2020 elections, because people want protection, but they deserve their freedom. And the question then is, in those challenging cities, I'm saying cities because those are the ones where you have those large cities where the police, unfortunately, are stretched thin or just and not there, that this is fertile ground for that kind of technology to take hold and be used as an example. Yeah. And you can imagine, Susan, the marketing and the commercials that will be coming from that too as well. I can see it right now.
We should make a spoof one.
Yeah. So again, thanks for joining us on American Exceptionalism today. This is a show, sort of like the beginning of many shows that we're going to be tackling this issue of whether or not technology is keeping up with, or actually we are keeping up with technology, and whether or not your child, your family, or this nation will actually become subject to a world where we lose our freedom at the expense of safety, and what that will look like for us. So again, God bless you, and God bless America.